Yo, 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 what's up, Kwanza Global family? This is episode 24 of the Kwanza Global podcast, and today we are going to be discussing transparency. The title of this episode is Transparency. And yeah, I mean, just not too long ago, it just came to me, and how important it is for one to have transparency when it comes to in regards to just meaningful relationships, friends, family, like really meaningful relationships, genuine relationships, close relationships, in those relationships that we have with one another that are close, meaningful, genuine, sincere. I'm talking about like a family bond type of thing. To be able, to have that is a blessing. And when we have that, the thing we shouldn't do when we have those relationships is not utilize them for what they should be about, which is being able to open up to one another, and that's crucial in this life. First off, we're not meant to be alone. God did not create us to be alone. Clearly, that's evidently, there's evidence of that. God did not create us to be alone. We need relationships. We need people around us. We need to be able to talk to people. There's a reason why when people get sent into solitary confinement, it's not a peaceful place. When you're not in the general population, there's a reason why. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, you're by yourself, big deal. It's like, for a long periods of time, with your own thoughts in your own head for extended period of time. Not just for a couple minutes. No, like an extended period of time. You're just in your own head. Think about that. All right, just think about that. You're just in your own head with all your thoughts and all, you know what I mean? And those thoughts contain worry, fear, doubt, all those, all the negative stuff, you know what I mean? That's going on in your head, all the worry, all that stuff, right? And you're just holding on to that. And to make it worse, you're by yourself. There's nobody around to talk to. There's no one to, you know what I mean? There's no one to hear you out at all. You know what I mean? You could scream and shout, but nobody's gonna say nothing. You know what I mean? Nobody is there to give you feedback, none of that stuff, right? So you really have to put into perspective once we realize, and we have established that we do have genuine relationships in our lives, strong relationships in our lives, with people that we love. We have to be open. We have to be transparent. And it's important in this life because in the things that we go through on a day-to-day basis, on a yearly basis, weekly basis, the things that we go through in life, we all go through similar things, different things in our lives, and we need to talk about them. Be open about it, because you shutting off and not wanting to worry other people about your problems does you no service, does you no benefit, right? You not letting out your the things that are troubling you and weighing you down does you no service. And but then in your mind you're trying to justify it and say that, oh, if you tell someone else, you're just putting more on their plate, that when they have their own worries. But that's the thing, they as a when you have that relationship, that strong relationship with someone else, that's the thing, you trying to justify and say, all right. And of course, in a good way, in the sense that you're just considering the other person. You know what I mean? this particular example, you're just considering the other person, and you just don't want to, um, you don't want to, you don't want to put more on their plate than, because you already know they also have their own, life, period, and they also go through things. So you can genuinely be concerned about that, and just be, you don't want to put that on top of them. But as a someone that um that you have a strong relationship with, then that shouldn't be a worry. They want to help you. They should want to help you. They will want to help you, right? But that it's the vice versa. That person could also share what's weighing them down, um, with you, right? So it doesn't have to be just a one-way street. It shouldn't be a one-way street, if it's a strong relationship, if it's really, yeah, yeah, it's really your boy, or it's really your homegirl, right? If it's really, and if that's really your close friend, if that's really family to you, then it shouldn't be an issue, um, for you, to let out, what you're going through, and then vice versa, right? So, I mean, it's really that we 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 don't we don't realize that this is how relationships should work, in this society that we live in right now, and it's unfortunate. And um, I know, like, I mean, everyone. I mean, this is a topic that affects everyone, you know, um, which is why the topic is very important. I mean, it'd be important even if it would just affected one demographic, because that's something that's really crucial. Not being transparent and open can lead to, disastrous results. You know what I mean? Because you're bottling so much in. But continuing into that, it isn't just a very, you know, doesn't just affect, you know, just a limited group of people. Like, this affects everyone, because a lot of us really do try to hold in, um, you know, what we're feeling, especially men, as a lot of you may know or understand, because we're, society, again, this, as a society, we've become conditioned, and you can even say culturally in some cases, that we become conditioned to believe that as a man you have to, deal with these things on your own. You know what I mean? It's not and it becomes synonymous with, because you have to deal with it on your own, so you don't have to talk about it, because basically talking about it is kind of you complaining about it, or kind of being, or trying to avoid the situation, or and all of that, and that's not the case. You know what I mean? You n- not talking about it doesn't make the situation less of a situation, less of a problem, or less burdensome on you, but even more, because you're carrying that weight, and you don't know, you may not know what to do, or you know what to do, but it's just, you know what I mean? It's a lot of, you know, stuff to get through, and you're just holding it in on top of other things that will occur in your life, because life doesn't just stop because you're going through a particular situation or a particular thing in your life, and then all of a sudden life stops until you figure it out. No, life doesn't work like that. Life keeps on going. The clock still keeps going. Another minute passes, another hour passes, and you know what I mean? Life still comes at you regardless. So, you know what I mean? Like, no one said, you know what I mean? No one said it would happen otherwise. So, we need each other. We need each other. Opening us, you know, uh, in our relationships, opening up to each other it's needed. It serves a purpose. We are relational beings. Um, in the Word of God, it says, um, specifically in Galatians 6:2, it says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." So carry each other's burden. It doesn't say carry your own burdens. You know what I mean? Carry each other's. So I carry, you know, my bro's burdens, and he tells me his. Carry each other's burden, and this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Why? Because I can help you with your problem and take that weight off your shoulder. Think about it. But think, like, you have to think about it, really practically. You know what I mean? You have to think about it like this. What you're going through, right, isn't weighing me down. Because first off, I don't even know. You know what I mean? Maybe, you know what I mean? I don't even, like, that's not, 'cause how do I put it? You know what I mean? What's your, so let me give you, like, picture it like this. First off, you're going through something, I'm going through something, all right? First off, you tell me what you're going through, I tell you what I'm going through, right? So we're going through two different things. But those things that we're telling, were obvious. Those things that we're discussing about are obviously, weighing each other down, right? So I tell you about what I'm going through, you tell me what you're going through, right? um that particular issue isn't, you know what I mean, I'm letting go of mine to give to you. So it's kind of like that sense of relief, that sense of, I'm giving, I'm letting out that weight. I'm talking to you about it. I'm not keeping it in. So it's almost like, I have someone to help me to kind of problem solve this. I have someone to help me brainstorm, to give me advice, to give me wisdom, to give me encouragement, to show me love, surrounding, regarding this burden that I'm carrying, right? Which is why it's important to have a really, it's a solid relationship. It's someone you trust, someone that cares about you, someone that, that it's a bond, filled with, love. You know what I mean? There's no, it's not, I'm not, I'm not saying just go up to anybody now. Like, as someone who isn't, mature enough to even, you know, handle something, of the sort, where they're not, you know what I mean. You still have to use wisdom there, but I'm talking about in the sense that, this is someone who you're close to, and you can go, like, off experience, you can go to them for wisdom, advice, or encouragement, for them to be able to uplift you. You're gonna receive, that genuine love there, you know uh, constantly, persistently, all the time, right? That's a real thing there. So I'm talking about those cases and those relationships, and you tell them what you're going through. Take that weight off your shoulder. You telling them, that what you're gonna get back, will be, instead of 100-pound weight, you're gonna get back, a feather, a single feather. You're gonna get back something very light. You know what I mean? It is what I'm trying to say in exchange, because you've let out that burden you're talking about. You're talking about it. You're letting it out. You're letting it out. You're not holding it in, not knowing what to do, or just kind of like feeling like you're all alone in on it, because it's only you haven't let it out. You kept it boxed in. You kept it by yourself, and because nobody can just read your mind, except for God. You know what I mean? And then, it's just you going through it. And then, God has already told us he's and wants us, and it's like I read in his word, for us to carry each other's burden. So you have to give that up. That's what he wants you to do. So he's telling you what you should do to get out of those situations where you feel alone, right? You need to talk to someone. You know what I mean? They, recently, for divinely enough, there was a post, my bro posted on his story, talking about, like, where they, matter of fact, I seen in the comments that it wasn't even that they changed the number, but they added, also an alternative, more of, I guess, a quicker way to access, like, suicide hotline, right? And what is the point of suicide hotline? Clearly to talk to someone, when you're having these, thoughts, of, committing suicide. You know what I mean? Why would you have a hotline for that? Because you can talk to someone. literally talk to someone, right, and get immediate help. You know what I mean? That it's like it that's you see the connection there. You can talk to somebody. See, the only the point of the hotlines for you to be able to connect is to talk to somebody. That's what you weren't doing, which led to you to having, you know what I mean? You feel that the point of the hotline is when you feel like you don't have anyone to talk to, you don't have those, maybe either don't recognize that you do have someone who loves you in your circle, or you don't have that someone who really, that you can trust in your circle, and you're going through these things and you're feeling like, ending your life, you're thinking of doing something horrible, a permanent decision, you know, for a temporary problem. You're trying to that's what's about to happen, and that suicide hotline is for you to talk to someone. All right, this is a place where you can talk to someone. You're feeling this idea for sure. Like, this is the center. This is the place for that, like, dedicated just for you. If you're feeling this type of, like, you've been carrying all this weight that it leads to this, that call this hotline, call the suicide hotline, right? It relates exactly to this topic. When we don't have the not the ability but the opportunity to be transparent, right? To be transparent, to be open with somebody that we trust um, and love, right? Then that's the thing, right? And it relates also to you know, as a Christian, with my relationship with Christ, not religion, because it's not about me rules and just like there's a certain way I have to talk to God, there's a certain way I have to pray, there's a certain way I have to get up, there's a certain way I have to. It's not about that, because then I'm going into, you know what I mean. And now at that point, I'm becoming a robot. I'm just becoming I'm just copying what I see now. That's not what God created me to be. I'm not a copycat. I'm not a robot. No, I am a human being who was created by God. I'm his son. So why am I talking to him as if, you know, I have to have a script, as if, I was programmed to, only do what's in this, only do as if I'm talking I have to talk in a specific code that millions other people, pray like I have to pray like this. You know what I mean? I have to do this, like, as if, you know what I mean? We were all made, in a very, you know what I mean, mono in a very mono like way, where it's like it has to be like this, it has to be like where it's just boom boom boom, like, oh, if you don't pray like this, God's not gonna hear you. You know what I mean? Like, where we limit God, and like, really, God's not gonna hear me if I pray like you, right? Like, how does that make sense? How are we limiting God to, you know what I mean? We're talking about God here, and if I pray like this, he wouldn't hear me. But if, you know what I mean, and that, you know what I mean, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, you have to pray like this or say these exact words. Like, no, be you. You know what I mean? Open up. God can hear you. You know what I mean? He can hear you no matter how you talk. You know what I mean? I don't care how low you speak. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You're feeling really just down and out, and you're speaking real. Like, pray to God like that. Talk to him like that. Like, he understands what you're saying. I know you understand what you're saying, even if no one can hear it, right? You could be speaking low, just tired, crying, just, you know what I mean, words that people can't even understand, because you're just going through it, and you're just like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna go through this, man. Like you just talking real low, like you low, like your voice is just hoarse throat, maybe from screaming, whatever the situation is, but just talk to him, like, whether it's out loud or even, in private, by yourself, just quiet, just talk to God. He will hear you. He will understand you. It's God. He's your father, right? And that's, and I'm just relating that because, you know, as a Christian, that's something that I also have to, um, remind myself of as well. Like, I have to be transparent. I have to be open. I'm not gonna talk to God like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to talk to sir. I have to talk all proper, professional, because it's God. It's like, yo, God knows me better than I know myself. Like, what show am I trying to put on? What face am I trying to put on? Why am I trying to be, act in a way that I'm not? Like, put on this bold face. God knows that I'm weak right now, right? And that's where he becomes strong, right? When I, it says in God's work, in God's word, that, you know, when When you're at your weakest, that's when, you know, God is at his strongest, you know, because at that point you have, you know, you've realized and you've done all that you can. Hey, this is not, you can't push anymore. That's where the Holy Spirit come in. You know, Jesus comes in and saves the day, and boom. You know what I mean? He comes in with all his power, because you're not, you can't fight anymore. You're not pushing. You need that help, and you know, and that's when God will carry you, right? Um, we need to carry each other's burdens. We need to carry each other's burdens. So, you know, that relates to, in talking with God, you know, our Father, and also dealing with one another, you know, in our relationships, right here on earth. Like we need to talk to one another, carry each other's burdens. You know, we have to be open, we have to be transparent, we have to be, you know, there for one another, right? We can't afford to be closed off, you know, to one another. We can't afford to, you know, we can't afford to. And if you look at, you know how people are just taking their lives, we cannot afford to be closed off or assume that people who are, quote unquote successful, um, and that's really just, you know, society's version of successful is just having a lot of money, notoriety, you know, slash, you know, fame, just, being you know, having a good job, looking like you have it all together, essentially, based off society's, you know, check marks, like I mentioned, you know, a lot of money, you know, a good, you know, nice house, nice looking house, you know, people who, you know, you're well connected. You have people that, the people that you know, stuff like that. That's what makes you successful. And no, that's not. I mean, at the end of the day, you could have all these things, and then you lose your life. Then all those things that you attained, they don't follow you into the next life. You know, they don't follow you. They don't follow you. You know what I mean? They don't follow you to heaven, and they don't follow you to hell. All right, they don't follow you in either place. So, um, you defeat you. I mean, what's the purpose? What's the point? And that's the thing. It served no purpose. It served no purpose because you actually didn't have any peace. You didn't have any joy. Because you know all those things could not, even if it, no matter the amount of it, you know what I mean. Those things could never be a source of, uh, you know, permanent joy and peace, and you know what I mean, and or love, right? It could not replace what, you know, Jesus Christ gives, you know, right? That's the thing, and you know what I mean, and and you have to understand that, you know what I mean. We can't, you know, again, like it says in his word, we have to carry each other's burdens, right? So we can't, why do we, you know, why should we assume that just because, you know, things look good on the outside that people aren't going through something, right? You know what I mean? Where's the disconnect? You know, why is it synonymous? Because I mean, we have to be real about it here. We have to actually be open minded. So, you know, the way social media and way society portrays things, they portray it how they want to portray it. At the end of the day, that's not how, who the person is or how the person lives. People, you know, actually talk about, you know, yeah, they're celebrities. So what? At the end of the day, they're human beings. I'm not looking at them as, you know, they're celebrities. So that they're in some type of realm where they don't go through things the same way we, you know, people who aren't as famous do. That doesn't, you know what I mean? You see how that's a weird thing? It doesn't make sense. Why all of a sudden, just because you have cameras in your face, all of this, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean you may go through different types of issues because of the position you're placed in. That's a different story. That doesn't mean that you still don't go through issues. You still don't have issues and still don't go through situations, all right? So that's a disconnect that a lot of people seem to have, or you know what I mean, or don't seem to understand in circumstances, right? And in certain situations when it comes to like celebrities and stuff. And the reason I say that is because, you know, um, hopefully she's not. I mean, you know what I mean. I don't want anyone to go through uh something, through any tragedy or anything. But I mean, it happens, right? And just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean that's the case. You know what I mean? Beyonce, with all, as great as she has it as far as, wealth. You know what I mean? Same with Jay-Z. Same with people like LeBron. All these, you know what I mean? Like, yes, they have it, but that's not. You know what I mean? What's more important, than all of that can come crashing down in a second. Once, you know what I mean? Life is more precious than everything that you attain within it. All right. And I think we try to equate that somehow what we attain within life, somehow, um, you know, somehow, somehow validates our life. What we have validates our life in some way, as if they're equal and they're not. How, you know what I mean? A piece of, yeah, you cannot have me say that this $100 bill or 100 million of those $100 million bills is worth more than your life. You know what I mean? You know how crazy that is to say. You cannot tell me that's worth more than your life, or I can pay for your life. Like, no. The only person that can pay for your life and already did is Jesus Christ, and He did that on the cross because He took away all our sins so that we could be with Him. Now that's love. Now that's payment. Like, that's like someone who was innocent, blameless, died on the cross for you. You know what I mean? That's the type of that's the type of payment we talking about for if we're talking about paying for one's life. So I mean, all this stuff that people acquire, it does not equal to that being their, worth their life. That's not what their life. That doesn't um, take away or add more value to their life. You know what I mean? It helps them, in life, in various ways. That's a different story. Yes, it helps a lot, but it does not cure depression. Does not cure, or it does not bring. It does not bring peace. It does not bring joy. It does not bring love if you don't already have that in Jesus Christ. All right, it does not do that. That's the thing. It doesn't do that for you. It doesn't replace that for you. And as much as you think it does, you know what I mean. It's honestly temporary. It's a temporary thing. You know what I mean. It's very temporary. It's not eternal. You know what I mean. God's love is eternal. It's something that in this life and then into the next, will never ever leave you. Right. That's the difference. While all these things that we have here and here alone. And once you're out of here, once you're off this earth, that's it. So you have to think of it like that. You know what I mean? You don't focus on the temporal things, but the things that are eternal, right? But saying that, we shouldn't look at people. You know what I mean? We need to stop looking at people, human beings. That includes celebrities and people that are well known. You know what I mean? We have to do it with this notion that just because they're well known, and I don't even want to use celebrity because it's been thought of as, in a sense, that they're in some sort of space that essentially it robs them of being of human descent. Like, they're still human. You know what I mean? This is not, it never changed. I don't know where that disconnected it, but just because you're very well known, for the gifts, for your gifts, you're very well known for your gifts, what you, and the wealth that has come with it, does not mean that you don't go through what you go through, right? And like everyone else, and which is why we need to carry each other's burden. Because I'm not gonna assume just because you're Rihanna, just because you're LeBron, just because you have this, that you're perfectly okay. I'm not gonna go to that extent, or that you're, you know what I mean, or that you're, you know, this mega, this mega church pastor, this big church, that you're not going through it. Behind closed. I'm not just gonna assume that. Why should I assume that? Why? Unless, what I mean, you're not God. You're not. You know what I mean. You're not. You know what I mean. Where you can't. You know what I mean. you're not God where just, you know what I mean, you're perfect, and the issues that come with you, you're not susceptible to fall to, or to doubt yourself and fear. You know what I mean? Like, you're not God to for me to assume that. You know what I mean? And maybe for some of us, we put people in that position in our minds, in some type of godlike authority, and if you're someone that does that, then you need to take that out of your mind, because nobody is, you know what I mean. All of us are human. None of us are God. So to put someone on such a high pedestal, that when they do fall short, that we judge them as if they weren't, like they weren't who they've always been, which is a human being, imperfect like everyone else. Then that's on you, for making such a really an assumption that's clearly not based on, like, they're human. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's really based on what? I mean, with the things that they say, the way they move, their gifts. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times, people, the way, because people, when people use the gifts God have given them so well, and they're so well known for it, we tend to use that gift, and that they have, and that becomes, God in our minds. That becomes God in some people's minds. That it's like, all right, this gift, and that gift that they have, that person has, so now when they fall, because the gift that God has given that individual, because people have made it their God, made it kind of made it their idol, because that gift is what gives people so much inspiration, but it also gives people kind of this false sense of that person is some type of, in a God sense. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you know what I mean? Because you know what I mean. Why? Because then there would be no disconnect. Because you're looking at that person and their gift as if they're somehow better than you, or that they're somehow in a more elite level than you, or they're somewhat in this they have this some type of authority, or a position of power, in a godlike sense. In where, so now when they fall short, it's a disappointment to you, or it's a, you feel like, you know what I mean, it causes you to say, well, you know it's you know what I mean, it causes you to kind of snap out of it. It's like, well, no one's perfect, because I mean, what made you think she was? Is it the gift that God gave her? So you have to really understand this, that human beings are very, as human beings, we can be very, there's which is why you have to really understand, who we are in Christ. We have to understand who gave us all these gifts, who gave us purpose, and it's God, no one else. You know what I mean? And I think the problem is here, people don't understand that, the where it comes from, where that gift, that these well-known people, these famous people in our lives that use their gifts very well, right? That God has given them. There's people, a lot of people don't understand that God has given them that gift, like literally, like God has given them that gift. That's what God has given them, has blessed them with, and they're using it well, right? They're stewarding it well, right? But people fall in love with the gift and make that, and the gift of that person there, God. Like, that's like, wow, like, and because they're so in love with that person's gift and how they're using it, like, wow, this is amazing. And then everything that comes with with that gift that person has, and how they've used it, to better their lives and the people around them, and just the place that they're in, or as far as you know wealth, and the notoriety, right? That people have made that person's life essentially their God, right? Because of because of the gift God gave them. Understand? Like, how can the person who how can the person who received the gift, right, and is using the gift well, right, be more powerful or take the place of the person who gave them the gift. Who gave them the gift? God. So what? Why are you? How could they? How do you, they have a position in your life that supersedes? How do they have a position in your life? More of a space in your life. In your mind. Because I mean, we don't know these celebrities of personally. 99.9% of the population, right? So it's like, how do these people uh, take this space in your mind so much that they replace, that you don't get to, you don't want to know the person who gave them that gift. You don't think the person who gave them that gift loves them very much, is more worthy of the praise and the honor and the worship, right? You literally fall in love with this person, with this, like Beyonce, Rihanna, like any of these people you could talk about, right? You fall in love with the gift God has given them, over their life, and then everything that it brought them. You fall in love with it. That's become your God so much that you neglect your relationship. Either you forget or neglect your relationship with God, um, or you don't, or because you don't have a relationship with God, like, oh, you don't understand that gift it was given to them, right? That doesn't negate the fact or change the fact that they're human. And also, we also all have gifts, so they're not, it's not like a God is a respecter of persons, like, oh, only this person. It's like we all have our own type of gifts that we can use to glorify God and to also, and God will bless us as well in our own lives to be able to support ourselves and our family. But because there's a disconnect, that doesn't happen. And this is another problem with our society. We start to idolize and do these things, and now, how can you be transparent or open up when you think that that this person has it all together, just because you don't understand that this person in their life is not your God. You know what I mean? They were given that gift just like you were given your gift. Whatever your gift is, right? So it's like, I had to go into that because you can't think one way, and then kind of, what I mean, we can't play that double mindedness where we're switching it on and off. Like, famous people are human too. You know what I mean? So if you're ever in a position to come in contact with someone who's well known or anything, your the way you approach them when you talk to them shouldn't change. You shouldn't put on a facade to try to, and they're just like you, and they carry burdens just like you. And then, all of a sudden, it's weird how society gets when in those unfortunate cases where people who are well known take their lives, and then it's kind of like, whoa, 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 whoa. Is this a surprise because they're well known, or is this a surprise that, like, why would like, they should? I wish they, you know what I mean? Or it should be more of a be like, or it should be more of like, dang, they took their life. That's crazy. I wish it never came down to that. Instead of it more like, oh, because they were famous, like, or how, like what? And now we're so curious what led to that. You had all of this. You know what I mean? Our mind tends to go to, with all of this. I wouldn't. It's like, I've even done that at times where it's like, dang, you got all of this. How did you, But in my case, you know what I mean. I know where my peace and joy and love comes from, so it's easier for me to. So like, if I were in that position, the things I were going through, I understand how to deal with it, and I'm giving it to God. I'm talking to people, I'm opening up, but that person may not have, doesn't have that same understanding, that same experience, that same relationship with God. So that happens, right? They don't have people that they can trust, that they can talk to, right? That openness, that transparency, right? So that'll be a different situation, you know what I mean? But still, at the end of the day, it doesn't negate the fact that they're human. So that's what they went through, you know what I mean? Like, it, we know that these things that we have, that we attain throughout this life, it does not validate our life. It does not, it's not the things that we have that give us purpose, right? So that's essentially what it is. Like, we have to carry each other's burden. We have to be transparent. We have to be open with one another, because that is the only way we're going to get through this life together. right? We have to do it. We're doing it together, not by ourselves. We're not walking this walk alone. No matter how much you think, God is right there too, all the time, like all the time. Especially those times you feel alone, He is right there. He is right there. You know, I was watching this podcast. I think it was Bradley Martin's podcast, matter of fact, but George Janko was on there with another co-host they had on there, and they were just talking about, you know, they were talking about God, and George was talking about his relationship with God, and so was Bradley, as far as his relationship with God, and they were just talking about their their experiences, right, and everything, and one thing that was mentioned was just footprints in the sand, and how, you know, they were they both had experiences where they just felt like alone, and then they both came across this footprints in the sand. Footprints in the sand is just essentially when you feel alone, and you're walking on the beach, and then all of a sudden, you're just you know what I mean. You're just walking the beach, and you just see a single pair of footprints, next to you, and it's like there's no one there. Oh, no one's there, right? That's God's footprints right there next to you in the sand. I know some of you might know that, what I'm referencing, but yeah, it you know, um, it's something that spoke to me, you know, when I was watching that, and being transparent, being open, led to that, that experience being shared between the two of them. They both had the similar experience as far as having that footprints in the sand, just like a piece of paper, that had that message on it, essentially. But I think Bradley Barton had like a poster of it, and George Janko had like a card that fell out of the Bible, the back of the Bible, when he had picked it up, and um, but again, they both had similar, experiences as far as just going through something in their relationship with God, and just you know, how when when you're alone, and you think no one's there, God is always there, but that revelation came because of the transparency, the openness of that conversation. There was no holding back. You know what I mean? And that's what those type of conversations is what needs to be had. Excuse me. Like those conversations are conversations we need to have with one another. You know what I mean? Whether it be just one, whether it just be one friend or two friends, but you need to talk to somebody else. You know what I mean? And but God is, even with that, God is should always be in that equation. You know what I mean? Even that, even when you have a friend to talk to, a good friend to let it all out, God should also still be in that equation, because at the end of the day, He can lead you, can guide you, can give you that peace and joy and love that no one else can give, not even your friend. Not, you know what I mean? Not even, not even your brother, not even your sister, not even your mom or dad, no matter who it is, that they can't, that, there's still an extent of, how much you can get from humans, from people, right? At the end of the day, Jesus has that unlimited, undying, unshakable, love that He can give you, peace that He can give you, joy, that will last. So you don't let anyone or anything replace the relationship you should have, the relationship that you need to have with God. And then now, and once you establish that, um I'll continue, also establish a relationship with other people as well, though. Though they're both, they're both needed. You know what I mean? They're both needed. Your relationship with God is priority number one. But after after that, you still also need your relationships with with one another. We still need relationship with each other, to carry each other's burdens, to tell each other what we're going through. So I take that weight you're carrying off of you, and you take that weight I'm carrying, you take it off of me. You know what I mean? Essentially, that's all it is. You know what I mean? I mean, just think of it like this. Another example that came to mind. Let's say, hey, let's say I'm it could come down to like I'm more experienced, or I could give you advice on whatever situation you're going to, you know, uh, and so I take your weight off of you, and let's say it's a 100 pound weight. Like, that's light for me. That's light for me. And let's say I have you, and then I had a 200 pound weight. You take that from me. It's like, oh, that's light for me. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even understand the the strength we have to carry each other's burdens until you let it out. It's like, all right, that's a life for me. I got you on that. It's like, you help me with this now. I mean, like, if you look at it like that, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, when you give each other, when we give one another each other's burdens, we just, end up essentially, dropping, as soon as we do it, we kind of just drop off that sense of, um, that's it, it's not that we're not responsible for, in it's not like in certain cases we're not responsible for that problem that we're handling, and we don't have to deal with it, but it's kind of like, all right, I'm sharing this responsibility in a sense where I'm kind of like, trying to seek some advice or encouragement with it so I can get through it. You know what I mean? I just need that. Sometimes you just need that added, depending on what it is, that added encouragement or that advice to help you, deal with that problem the correct way. So that type of, that's the type of thing that we need there. So, or literally that person can actually even help you with their situation, like legit, depending on what it is, and they could actually help you with it. So you sharing it at the end of the day, just you talking about it, it just makes a difference because you're letting it out. You're not holding it, bottling it in, and driving yourself crazy. Because the human mind is man, it's a terrible place. And the reason it's a terrible place is because our hearts are not always, in the best position. We're not always, living right or doing things right, or thinking the right things. Things go wrong that way. So if we're always thinking to ourselves all the time, not letting things out, our heart is liable to get sick because it has no guidance, it has no direction, it has no one to open up to let itself out, and it's getting tired, right, of holding all of that burden and all of that stuff in. So being transparent is it's important. It's essential to how we move. It's essential to how we move in life and how we operate, and for us to get things done. So yeah, that's episode 24, y'all. Transparency. It's important. It's important. It's important. It's needed. For us to open up to one another. For sure. Like it's crucial. So yeah, that's episode 24, y'all. Hope y'all got something from it. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, that's it, y'all. Should keep up with us on all our socials. And gonna catch y'all again next week. You already know. Alright, that's it. Episode 24, Kwanza Global. We out.